All right, let's hear from you. It's time for the Friday feedback of the week, or the Friday feed bag. Someone said it should be called the Apple bags, but that seems a little risque for our particular setting and audience. So it is what it is, but let's start with a very important message from John McCullough, who said on YouTube, David Pakman drinks Bud Light and it shows. I'm going to tell you the funniest thing about this whole Bud Light thing. Now, for some of you who don't know, Bud Light is now being subjected to a boycott attempt by the very people who say you shouldn't do boycotts because it's a form of cancellation. Bud Light did a partnership with Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney is a trans woman who I had never heard of until conservatives got all angry about her. I don't even know whether we would know who Dylan Mulvaney is were it not for right-wingers who are furious. So after Bud Light did this partnership with Dylan Mulvaney, many on the right said we now have to boycott Bud Light. Now, here's the funny thing. I've been boycotting Bud Light since I started drinking alcohol because I think Bud Light is terrible. I think it's just disgusting, completely disgusting. Give me an Allagash White. Give me a Belgian Wheat. Come on, guys, please. But I think Bud Light's disgusting. So when this entire thing happened, I was able to take the position that I will continue not having Bud Light for no reason other than I think it's absolutely disgusting and terrible beer. The funny thing is the following. Before the Dylan Mulvaney thing, when someone like me would say, Bud Light is terrible, get me a microbrew, get me whatever, the right-wingers would go, oh, you sissy, drink an American beer, drink Bud, drink Coors, drink whatever. Now, those very same people say Bud Light is the one that's for the sissies who support the trans people or whatever the case may be. I have not had a Bud Light in decades. I continue not to drink Bud Light, but it is laughable that that now counts as an insult. But it just reminds you about the strange bedfellows and enemies that politics makes when your brain can be so easily broken. All right, another comment from KBJ about the economy. KBJ says to me, how's Biden working out for you, bud? I'm sure prices of everything are down and the economy is perfect, right? Well, I mean, let's talk it through. Biden's working out fine for me, but I don't really need anything at this point from the government. The question is, what does the economy look like? Prices, when you look at inflation numbers are down dramatically from where they were a year ago. So inflation is slowing down significantly. The economy is never perfect. We still have inequality. We have people who have to work multiple jobs, just like we did under Trump and just like we did under, it's not unique. Under Obama, we had that. Obama. Under George W. Bush, et cetera. But it's hard to find indicators that look particularly bad. The stock market is like pretty okay. Unemployment is at record lows. Job creation is doing well. Inflation's coming down. Consumer confidence is doing well. GDP has been on the upswing. You tell me. I mean, like, point to the indicators. Tell me the metrics that show us that everything is terrible. Flawless P wrote in about book bans and says, so when told not to teach from the Bible as though it were fact, is not teacher being censored unfairly? Are you banning books? LMAO, your argument is cringe and useless. Of course, some topics and framing of some topics aren't appropriate for public schools. That's not controversial. I have to admit, I have no idea whether this person is in favor or against the book banning that we're seeing in Florida. I can't tell. They say something about the Bible. When told not to teach from the Bible as though it were fact, is a teacher being censored unfairly? Is that banning a book? No. Oh, I see the point. Listen, there's two different things here. Saying that religious texts have no place in science class is not banning books. It's saying this is a science class and religious texts of any kind have no place here. It could be the Quran. It could be the Bible. It could be whatever Scientologists read or believe in, or, the golden tablets of Joseph Smith. That's not banning books. It's saying those books should be in courses about comparative religion or history of religion. This is a very confused person who, as often is the case, is taking really strong positions about things they don't understand even remotely. And that's really the tragedy. Good-looking man wrote in, commented on YouTube, and I guess is trying to make a point about the tendency towards violence of people based on whether they're left-wing or right-wing. Good-looking man says, wear a Maga hat through New York City and see how far you get before you get canceled. Now it's the wrong wear an I Love Biden hat through Florida, and you'll find that you'll be perfectly safe. I have been places in New York City where some clown comes through with a Maga hat. No one pays attention to them. To him, I should say. I've only ever seen guys do it. The funny thing about this is this person wants us to believe that in Florida with an I Love Biden hat, you're fine, you're safe. But if you wear a MAGA hat in New York City, you'll get, quote, canceled. But he's using that in quotes to suggest almost like it's going to be violence. You won't be safe. I've been at bars. I've been at outdoor terraces. I've been in different places where there's a dude, usually between 22 and 28 years old, wearing a MAGA hat and looking super pleased with himself, like he's doing something extraordinarily clever. No one pays attention to him. I was at a bar. The bartender looked at the hat, said nothing. The guy ordered a drink. The drink was made. It was almost like the people I see with the MAGA hats in New York City, they almost seem underwhelmed that nobody is reacting to them. Now, can you find instances of someone with a MAGA hat or someone with a Biden hat being aggrieved? I'm sure you can. But the idea that you're particularly unsafe in New York City with a MAGA hat, give me a break. These people live in a fantasy world. It's just pathetic. Echo Icon says, bless your heart, you look like you've been vaccinated. How can you tell? Is it that I'm functioning? This is the sort of bottom of the barrel stuff, but I look like I've been vaccinated. That's the new, by the way, the new sort of like alpha male sort of thing. Getting vaccinated means you're afraid to deal with the illness yourself. And it's sort of like calling for your mommy. This is the dumbest analogy to vaccination that I've maybe ever heard, but there's a lot of dumb people here. Hey, this is cool. Rosie ODonnell. Yes, that Rosie ODonnell, who has actually been a follower of the David Pakman Show for a long time. Friend of the show, Rosie ODonnell, would love to appear on her podcast if she's interested, commenting about Dianne Feinstein, and says about Dianne Feinstein, sad. Someone tell her it's time to bow out with gratitude, So there is Rosie ODonnell with a very powerful declaration. We hear from her often, actually. It's a beautiful thing. All right, a couple comments from Facebook. Hubert Wisniewski says, even if Republicans do choose DeSantis as their candidate, Donald will still run for president. He still has to. He has no choice because he's hoping that saves him from going to jail. My hope, I am not a praying person, but after my prayers were recently answered for there to be tech glitches during Ron DeSantis's campaign launch, I now am like, wow, maybe prayer does work. So I think now I have to shift my prayer to hoping that somehow Ron DeSanctimonious, that hopefully he does win the Republican primary and that Trump runs third party, because it will be the end of Republican chances in 2024 as we know them. I hope Hubert is correct about that. And then Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson commented on Facebook's, says, I think these fines/penalties need to immediately be put in some escrow or whatever kind of account so Trump can't hide it, spend it, whatever, while all appeals are exhausted. Until the money is actually taken away from Trump, it won't be real to him. I agree with this. This is in reference to the $5 million that failed former President Trump has been ordered to pay E. Jean Carroll because he was found liable for both sexual assault and defamation against her. And Trump was ordered to pay $5 million. He's appealing it. And so what Eric is correctly pointing out, and it's something many of us have discussed, sure, Trump's been ordered to pay, but until he pays, we shouldn't assume that E. Jean Carroll is going to see even a dollar of that money. I believe it would be great to sequester that money, escrow it immediately. I have no belief that that is actually what's happening. And at this point, I certainly can't tell you that I'm confident that Donald Trump is actually going to pay out. I hope he does. I hope E. Jean Carroll's lawyers are ready to do what needs to be done to get that money. But until I see the money, I am going to be skeptical that it is coming. All right. You can email info@davidpakman.com. You can make a comment on YouTube, Facebook. Who knows what's going to show up in the Friday feedback segment. And of course, remember that everything we do is supported so strongly, so directly by people like you who go to joinpakman.com and they get themselves a beautiful membership.
Thank your lucky stars every day you're not Dave Pakman.
You don't have to be me to get a membership and get access to the bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. Bonus show is coming up right after this. Otherwise, I'll see you back here on Monday.